Uh, uh, do not be deceived. I am the producer, and I am going to lead this show. Typically, I'd have somebody else to do this, but I'll get it done anyway. What's up? What's up, folks? Welcome to another edition of the Roundtables, HBCU Sports Live. I'm your host, Ken Rashad, joined by the usual cast of characters: Chris Stevens, Jared Hoffman, and guys, look, this is okay. Hold on, let me see. I got all kinds of stuff going on right now, but I was determined to make sure we have a show today, and we've got a lot of interesting discussions to discuss. We have just been just swamped with work. You know, we just literally last week we were all dressed up in our very best, the HBCU Sports Awards. It was successful. It went well. Congratulations to Alabama State for taking all of those awards and all that other good stuff. Congratulations to all the other winners and so forth, man. Second annual thing, and the feedback that I've gotten so far has been overwhelmingly positive. And I can't thank you guys enough for what you guys have done with respect to supporting this platform and things of that nature. But anyway, enough of me rambling and so forth. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing?
Well, it's Friday.
That's
Friday. That's really what it boils down to. We made it through another week. Obviously, we're getting closer to the start of football season. 3 weeks away, ladies and gentlemen. 3 weeks away from the MEAC SWAC Challenge with Southern versus North Carolina Central in Atlanta. Very much looking forward to that. So we're literally living for the weekend like the OJs.
Jared, how are you, sir?
I'm all right. I'm calling.
Wait a minute. Say what?
I'm ready to take a nap, but I'm good. I'm all right.
I know, man. Look, I get it. It's been work overload, but hey, it is Friday, and this is the last thing we'll probably have to do the rest of the week, at least together anyway. But hey, the show must go on, and we must continue with the work. And so, you know what? We'll go ahead and we'll start with our first topic. Now, I'm not exactly sure what this is about, but there was an interesting press release that came out with respect to the 4 HBCU athletic conferences, NCAA athletic conferences. And Chris did the reporting on this initially, the HBC4Us. Not a whole lot of detail involved in what this is all about, but Chris and I kind of had some off the, cuff conversations. And Chris, what are we to make out of this announcement?
To be honest, it feels like something, because I'll never forget when I talked to Commissioner Sonia Stills earlier this year for a piece that I wrote on the website. You guys can check that out on hbcusports.com, by the way. That the 4 NCAA conferences, HBCU conferences, we're going to have to come up with something to counteract what's going on with NIL and the transfer portal and the house settlement and all of that. And from what the bullet points listed, it went down the line of preserving cultural heritage, student athlete,
right,
wellness and all of that stuff. It sounds like they're trying to say, we don't have billions of dollars to pay these kids, but we have the educational aspect, we have the cultural aspect, we have the social aspect. So we're telling you guys right up front, it's going to be a struggle, but we're in this struggle together. And it's not fair. I don't think it's fair to say that, the HBCU 4 is struggling by and large. I mean, the SWAC is doing great numbers. In fact, SWAC TV debuts today. If you haven't checked out SWAC TV, go do that. Yep. The SIAC just announced a deal with ESPN to broadcast a few of their football, not just a few, quite a bit of their football games. I think it's like 20 or so. The CIAA has always done well, and the MEAC is hanging in there. So this feels like a way that the HBCU 4 and the NCAA are going to try to band together to save themselves from the menace that is the multi-billion-dollar, bordering on trillion-dollar culture of college football TV money and NIL and the portal and the house settlement and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, because now look, I get this. This is all about, and I want to be specific here. This is all about the 4 HBCU conferences that are affiliated and are members of the NCAA. But there's just a little part of me that just wishes that you guys could have included the HBCU AC. You know, I'm just saying, even though that's an NAIA conference, I get that, but I'm just simply saying. But I'm sure we're all united, and I get the purpose of this. But Jared, what are your initial thoughts on this announcement by the conferences about this alliance?
It just seems like there's a bunch of goals, but there wasn't a lot about like specifics of how they plan to do it, you know, that is put out there. And I can understand why they wouldn't put the entire plan out there. So I think that, like, there's things that they want to accomplish that I'm aligned with. I really love that they put promoting mental health, you know, for these student athletes, because we've seen on many occasions that student athletes today, that's what a lot of them struggle with, is mental health. You know, there's a lot that they have to deal with as students and as athletes, and beyond their lives as student athletes, they have a lot that they have to deal with, and they bring a lot into these locker rooms that will never get out, you know, and that's overwhelming. So I love that they put promoting mental health. You know, I love that they talked about, you know, securing joint sponsorships and multimedia opportunities. That's ways to build revenue for these conferences, you know, but we just have to see this plan in action in order to really get a gauge on how successful this can be. You know, I mean, these aren't stupid people. Let's just put it like that. These aren't stupid people. All of these commissioners are well educated. They are very capable of in the positions that they hold. So all of them coming together can only mean great things, but we all have to see this plan in action.
Brendan Cyrus is asking, how is this any different from the announcement they had a couple of years ago? I'm not as sure. Are you guys aware of any announcements that took place a couple of years ago that was similar to this?
Not to my knowledge.
Unless, Brandon, you're talking about maybe the joint meeting that they had with the Black Congressional Caucus.
That might be it, because I think that's what
on Capitol Hill during the NIL thing. I mean, I don't know if that's the same as this.
This might have come out of that though.
Okay, because I'm wondering. I mean, because I was thinking, well, okay, what is this? Is this maybe their way of saying that we're going to maybe make a conscientious effort, maybe to kind of play more games against each other, which I guess we kind of already do. You know, I just wish there was just a little bit more clarity and a little bit more detail as to what this alliance is about. I mean, you know, what can we possibly expect differently going forward that we haven't seen before? And like Jared said, these aren't stupid people, and no one's trying to imply that. It's just that those who are not as smart as you all, you conference commissioners, we would just simply like to, you know, be just a little bit more educated about what this is all about, because I have no idea.
I think maybe that from what I gauged, from what I read, maybe it's more like doing more on the business side. I don't think this has to do with scheduling games against each other, because they've already been doing that. So I don't think it has anything to do with, like, I think maybe it's more along the lines of, if one conference is working in the brand, then all the other conference get a piece of the pie.
I was going to say,
like business, more business connections, maybe. I think that's more along of the lines of what
is this kind of like maybe one big huge collective?
It should be, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
because I can tell you now, I mean, no one complained when the Power Fours went to ESPN, TNT, well, Warner Discovery, or whatever name David Zaslav has for it now, because they went from a merger to unmerging. Now we don't know that the Power Fours went and said, we want the money, and ESPN, Disney, all these properties, Fox, they all said, okay, we can, you know, you guys can get the money, we can get our national championship, to heck with everybody else. this is basically coming out of that. Power fours are saying, screw everyone else in the NCAA. Y'all on your own.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like this is a way of the HBCU conferences to insulate themselves and say, all right, okay, since we're never going to compete with Alabama, we're not going to compete with USC, we're not going to compete with Ohio State, we're not going to compete with North Carolina, we're not going to compete with Georgia. We got to take care of ourselves. We've got to take care of ourselves. And that, to me, is something that needed to be done a long time ago, even before this new era of, player empowerment and salaries came into play. As far as the name Eye of the Watcher, I'm not against it because it's HBCU for us. Because those of us who are old enough to remember FUBU, for us by us.
Right.
So, it just makes sense that we get that call back to the days of when we did our own things, that we had our own media outlets. Which reminds me, if you want to support this one, you can do a super chat and you can subscribe to the channel for $4.99 a month. You can get all the pertinent information like this stuff we're talking about. You can donate through the Zelle app, donate at hbcusports.com, or you can go to the website, hbcusports.com/donate. Okay, just wanted to get that plug in real quick. But yeah, when we had things like our own record labels like Motown and Stax and Philly International, when we had, our own convenience stores and grocery stores and all of those things and our own media outlets, unfortunately, we're going back to those days. So we really need to ramp it up. Like the powers that be that are, just hell bent on white supremacy, they don't want black folk to have a doggone thing. So I think the HBCU4 is a smart way to sort of lead the charge to say, okay, all right, since y'all want to exclude us, we are going to insulate ourselves. We're going to take care of ourselves and make sure we survive. I mean, everyone else in the mid-major FCS space, y'all free to, copy our homework, but this is what we're doing to keep ourselves alive.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of these comments, and it's like someone said something about. I'm looking. No one. It appears that no one really knows what this is about. Basically, and there's a part of me that's a little hesitant to just overly speculate on what this is all about. But I think, like Jared indicated, there's probably a certain business element that I'm assuming has to be related maybe to NIL and in terms of a collective and so forth. So I don't know, man. I don't know. This is
they put like different like bullet points of what this collective was going to do, but the reason why I said I'm not sure how it looks is because there's no form of action. Like, for example, promoting mental health. What does that mean? Like, does that mean that is there going to be like, are you going to collaborate with mental health organizations? Does that mean that you're going to do more outreach? Or does that mean that, like, what does that mean specifically? I don't know what that means specifically. Like strengthening HBCU athletic programs to thrive on regional and national stages. Okay, what does that mean? They put that as competitive excellence. What does that mean, though? What does that mean? Does that mean more about collaborating with recruiting? What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Securing joint sponsorships and multimedia opportunities and long-term funding strategies. What does that mean? Does that mean like if one person collabs with Nike and another person collabs with, say, I don't know, give me a brand, Tesla, something like the AT&T or something like that, right? Fair enough. What does that mean? That the one conference that works with that brand is going to give that person the connections to work with that brand as well? Does that mean? I see what these bullet points are and I see what their goals are, but I don't know. I don't get from this what their plan of action is and how it looks for each respective conference and how each of the conferences benefit from these plans. That I see what their goals are. Their goals are very clear. What I'm curious about is what the plan of action is and how each conference will equally benefit from this. Because what I don't want to see is one conference benefiting more than the other. And because that's going to lead to that always leads to a conflict of interest when you're doing joint ventures. That's how so many business partners have fallen out, because a venture worked out more for one person than the other, or because one person involved in the venture had a different plan of action compared to somebody else, the way somebody else wanted to go about it. That's what I don't want to see come from this, is the conferences fall apart completely because this doesn't pan out. So I'm curious to see the plan of action and how it continues to progress as we go forward and we learn more about what this collective is and how it'll benefit each of the conferences and how they stick to these bullet points that they're saying is the mission for this.
Yeah, I don't think, and again, that because I know a lot of this is speculation, but I don't think one conference is going to be any less off than the other. I think that if there's going to be a potential split, then the split is going to be based upon, that split is going to be done evenly across the board. You can't, you need everyone to be involved in order to take full advantage of everything. So I'm like you said, Jared, I'm going to give these conference commissioners credit. They're a heck of a lot more smarter than we are in this particular space and in this particular profession in terms of what's allowed, what isn't allowed, and how to navigate going forward. Like I said, I just wish that we could have had just a little bit more detail on what, how they're going to execute going forward and so forth. But hey, I don't know. And then, of course, someone said, and it's funny, foundations of a mega conference to me. You know what? For whatever reason, initially, and I knew better, but initially, I actually thought, what's this? Is this what? And I knew better because I'm like, that's just impossible. But I literally was thinking, wait a minute, what's this? Is this a new mega conference or something? So TMB at HBCU Fantasy Sports, great comment, because my initial thought when I first saw the release was, what's this? But like I said, man, there was just a lot of information, not a whole lot there, and which kind of puts us in a position just to speculate. So our D2 expert, Jared Hoffman, my man, he took things to another level, and he decided to give us a little taste of something that, not too many people in this space do. And he published a report by giving us the 2025 HBCU Sports Division II Preseason All-American team. And that list is published on hbcusports.com. But Jared, I'm going to go ahead and give you kudos right now, brother, because nobody here on this staff has the heart, nor the guts, nor the wherewithal to do what you did, brother. I'm just telling you now. So Look, man, let's take a few minutes to dive into this list and kind of give us some idea of your justification for naming some of these people the way you did.
Well, first of all, it's not that deep. It's not that deep at all. There's something that I thought about with preparing for the HBCU football season. I'm excited for the HBCU football season like everybody, and this is just how my way of, expressing my excitement for the countdown. But, I just hope that I wish everybody knew how much talent there was at the Division II level, and I wish that everyone had the excitement for the Division II football season like I did, because the SIAC and the CIAA is going to be very fun. There was a lot of debate that I had about who should be on this, specifically at the quarterback position. I went with Isaiah Knowles because if you watched my stream yesterday for the Better Than Less Than podcast, which is, for those who don't know, a podcast that's focused primarily on Division II and NAIA HBCUs. So the CIAA, SIAC, and HBCUAC, all the latest news and trending topics at that level, you can watch the Better Than Less Than podcast for that. But at the quarterback position, Isaiah Knowles, who I picked from Albany State. I think that he just has the most upside of all the quarterbacks. You know, Kelvin Durham is coming to Johnson C. Smith from Fort Valley State, and he has the ability and the weapons around him to have a tremendous season. You know, with Armand Harris coming over, 1,000-yard receiver, teaming up with another 1,000-yard receiver in Brevin Caldwell, and a very underrated running back in Camaro Edmonds. I'm sorry if I said your name wrong, bro. But I think that Kelvin Durham has the weapons around him to have a great season, but don't sleep on the weapons around Isaiah Knowles in Albany State, as evidenced by a running back that I picked, Tyant Weish, who had a spectacular freshman season last year, was an all-purpose back for that team, and could very well be 1,000-yard back and 2,000 yards all-purpose. He has that kind of talent. So I just think that Isaiah Knowles, compared to Dalen Lee of Winston-Salem State and compared to Kelvin Durham, has the most upside compared to those guys. I did pick the two Johnson C. Smith receivers, Armand Harris and Brevin Caldwell, for this list. Those are two guys that have the potential to be a tandem of 1,000-yard receivers again this season. They have that. Look, Johnson C. Smith, it is championship or bust for them. It's championship or bust for them. If you look, a lot of the talent is on this list is from Johnson C. Smith, and it's championship or bust for them. So I hope that people are tuned into them, because you're either going to see something very exciting or something very heartbreaking. That's Johnson C. Smith this season. And that goes the same for Albany State. It's not championship or bust like it is for Johnson C. Smith, because I feel like Johnson C. Smith is just a little bit levels above the CIAA compared to Albany State being in a more harder to win conference in the SIAC. Is much more competitive in the SIAC, even though Virginia Union and Virginia State also, who are heavily populated on this list, Virginia State more than Virginia Union. But yeah, I just think that, and one team that is on here a lot that I didn't realize was going to be on here a lot. There's a lot of Benedict defenders on here. Don't be surprised to see Benedict in the championship picture this year. They have a lot of defensive talent. I think Israel Nkwosha, again, sorry if I said your name wrong, but he's somebody that I think could be an SIAC Defensive Player of the Year. And I think he's somebody that could put his name among the top defenders in all of Division II football. Like, he's that kind of talent. Benedict has a lot of defensive talent that if they can put that offense, I put them in the same conversation as Morgan State, where if they have an offense, they can be one of the more dominant teams in HBCU football. That's how good Benedict defense is. But they have to have the offense to really make them a championship bunch. So as you can see, there's a lot of storylines going into this Division II football season, and that's this will be one of many pieces I put together in preparation for the start of the HBCU football season in general. They like to call me a Division II expert, but not really. But I do focus on Division.
Yeah, really.
You will see some Division II previews, but I do also do the FCS. I do the SWAC and MEACs too. I know that's what the majority of our people focus on, but I want to implore everyone, if you're not tuned into the CIAA and the SIAC, please do, because you're going to see some of the best games you've ever seen. Like, I don't know if you guys were watching a couple of years ago, Tuskegee and Edward Waters on homecoming. That was one of the best games of that season. I don't know if you guys saw last year, Clark Atlanta and Fort Valley State. That was one of the most exciting games in HBCU football last season. So if you're not watching the CIAA and the SIAC, you're really missing out on some great football.
And
So
never forget.
Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
And don't forget, Clark Atlanta went into Bethune-Cookman and won on a 55-yard field goal at the gun. So yeah, man, Division II's got some talent. You know, we owe it to them to check them out as much as we talk about our MEAC and SWAC folks.
So Jared,
okay.
No, I was gonna say I couldn't help but to notice you made the comment that for Johnson C. Smith it's basically championship or bust. Well, what does it say for Maurice Flowers? Who I mean, look, I know he's not on the hot seat, but what does it say for him if, for whatever reason, when it's all said and done, and there is no championship at Johnson C. Smith?
That's a tough question. That's really a tough question because I don't think it would be fair to say that if Johnson C. Smith doesn't win a championship this year, it's because of Maurice Flowers, or Maurice Flowers should receive whatever amount of blame for them not reaching their champ. It's going to happen either way, just like it did for Chennis Berry when he wasn't able to win in the D2 playoffs in his 2 years at Benedict, and when he wasn't able to win the Celebration Bowl at South Carolina State. He's going to have that stigma of not being able to get his team over the hump. But I don't think it's going to say anything about him as a coach. If anything, it's going to really help him in the long run because he had a hell of an offseason. This offseason he had was one of the best in all of HBCU football. He had one of the best off seasons in terms of recruiting. Getting Armand Harris from Clark Atlanta, who was getting Division I offers, getting Cam Williams from Miles, who was a part of that SIAC championship when he had 2 interceptions in that game, and you getting Brevin Caldwell, getting Darius Ocean, who was at Valdosta State before he came to Johnson C. Smith, and getting Kelvin Durham. Like, he showed that he can recruit his butt off and that he can get the guys in the room that is needed to win. So I don't think that them not winning a championship will hurt him in terms of the opportunities that come down the road, but I definitely think there's going to be a stigma that is going to follow him until he gets his team over that championship hump. And Lawrence in the chat asked who I think is the number 1 ranked team in the lower division. I would think going into the season, of course, there's always that idea of, shout out to Ric Flair, to beat a man, you got to beat the man. So of course there's going to be people that say Virginia Union, and there's going to be people say Miles, and you're not wrong to say that. But for me, the team that I'm looking at as the favorite, as the number 1 team going into the season, is Johnson C. Smith. Now, yes, a lot of their hype is surrounded by paper. They're a paper champion right now. On paper, this looks like a dominant football team. But I can't look at that roster and say they should be anything but the number 1 team in HBCU football. So to answer your question, I don't think it's going to say, I think there's going to be a stigma surrounding Maurice Flowers if they don't win a championship this season, but I don't think it's going to hurt him in terms of the opportunities that come for him down the road, because he is an excellent coach, a great recruiter, and he has a great staff that if he goes up to the Division I level, and he should be getting opportunities very soon. I don't know why more Division I programs weren't looking toward him and Dr. Alvin Parker after this past all season, but that's neither here nor there. He will get those opportunities going forward, and that's if Johnson C. Smith wins a championship or not.
You anything you want to add to that, Chris, real quick?
I agree with Jared. I mean, it looked like they were ticketed for the big time last year. Then they get hammered at Fayetteville State and just absolutely mess all over themselves in the oldest HBCU football game ever with them in Livingstone. Shouts out to Sean Gilbert, the Earthquake, their head coach. But yeah, I'm with Jared. This feels like the best team in Division II. They might be able to give some Division I's a run for their money if they played them, but I mean, I agree with Jared also. I don't think this puts a stain on Maurice Flowers at all. I mean, because, Chennis Berry won 2 SIAC championships, never won a playoff game, and South Carolina State backed up the truck for him quickly. So it wouldn't affect my perception of Maurice Flowers that he's a great coach, and anybody at the Division I level will be good to have him. But yeah, I do think Johnson C. Smith has the best inside track to win the CIAA this year.
All right. So moving on, and this has been, I guess, something that is probably came as a surprise. That's not what we want. Let's give it another try. There we go. Okay. So this is another Chris Stevens joint. it was later revealed that Mai'quez Hagens, who passed for over 2,500 yards and 16 touchdowns for UAPB last season, was, for whatever reason, removed from Alabama A&M's roster. And that was according to news from Stats Performance's Craig Haley. And Haley is citing that this was an academic issue as the reason for being removed from the roster. Chris, what more can you tell us about this unexpected news about Hagens not being able to play for Alabama A&M?
Well, it hurts, to be honest with you, because he was one of the prize portal gets when he announced he was leaving UAPB. In fact, he went to Lamar at first. But then when Alabama A&M hired Sam Shade, he was like, "Oh, changed my mind, going to normal." And he was going to definitely push Quad Brown, Cornelius Brown the fourth, but they call him Quad because Quad, of course, is 4. And but Cornelius Brown, Quad Brown, saw the bulk of the reps for quarterback at Alabama State last year, which means he'll probably do the same this year because, of course, Mr. Hagens is not on the roster. But I'm sure this puts a crimp in whatever plans Sam Shade had for Alabama A&M's offense, because Mai'quez Hagens was one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in not just HBCU football, but FCS football last year. I mean, he ran for 25. I mean, he threw for 2,500 yards, ran for about 500. Very talented young man. Definitely throw the ball. Watching the Memphis Classic. I can't remember the name, which is going to bother me for a long time. But
what name?
When they played the whatever game, the Memphis football classic. Killing me.
Southern Heritage?
Yeah, the Southern Heritage. How did I forget the name of the Southern Heritage? Oh my God. Yeah, he was slinging that thing in the Southern Heritage last year against Tennessee State. So, I mean, he's a very talented quarterback, and for him to not be able to make the roster, maybe it's missing credits. Hopefully that's all it is. But I will say this really quickly. Kids, you can't forget about the student part in student athlete. I mean, if your grades ain't up to snuff, you S out of luck. That's what it boils down to. You have to still perform in the classroom as much as you perform on the field, on the court, on the track, wherever. So whatever that case is, it hurts Alabama A&M, but they're not totally in the lurch because they still have Quad Brown, which means Quad Brown will probably be QB1 throughout the season for Alabama A&M. But not having Hagens, who was their biggest get in the offseason, is clearly going to be a disappointment for Sam Shade and company.
Jared, any comments about the news about Hagens?
Yeah, just echoing the words of Chris, it's devastating. Student athletes need to understand that student is very important. Can't lose sight of that. So we don't know what his specific case is. There's not a lot of details about it. Sam Shade when he commented on it, didn't have much to say about it because he did. I don't know if he know. I mean, I'm pretty sure he knows, but I'm pretty sure he's going to keep that close to the hip, as he should. So I don't want to speculate about, what the academic issue is. We don't know if he's missing credits. We don't know if he's academically just ineligible. We don't know what it is. I don't want to put that stain on his name. All we know is that he's not going to be playing for Alabama A&M at the start of the season. And I just hope that he's able to get back if he wants to get back. But more importantly, I hope he gets whatever academic situation he's in situated so that he can be as successful as he can be as a student first and then an athlete second.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And you're saying that they're saying that Hagens isn't going to be playing at the start of the season, but if he's been removed from the roster, it sounds like he won't be playing at all this year, for at least not for A&M. So, it remains to be seen, but I still found it to be somewhat of a shocker. And like Chris says, man, I mean, these athletes who compete at the collegiate level still need to understand that they are students. And there is, despite all of there is right now with NIL and the process of making money, there's a little caveat. You not only are you allowed to make money, but you're still required to go to class. If that's the case, I'm just simply saying, I'm not saying that's the situation here with Hagens. I'm just saying, but you want to go to you transfer to these schools and you want to play football and you want to get paid, but you still got to go to class. You still got to progress. That's still a thing. Schools have to be held accountable for that. All I'm asking you to do is if we're gonna pay you some money, you gotta go to class. Even if you don't do the classwork, but you still gotta do the classwork, because if you want to progress, you want to get paid next year. If you're not good enough to go to the pros, you gotta go to class. I'm just simply saying. All right. I ain't trying to insult anybody's intelligence here. Man, I'm sick of this damn thing. Okay. So check it out. We've got another topic. We're going to get to our off topic after this break from our sponsor. Yeah, we got a sponsor. And we'll be right back. We'll be right back. I promise. We'll be right back. We'll be right back.
I bet the anticipation is killing you guys.
One of the most unforgettable HBCU football games I ever attended was in 1980. It was the Grambling versus Alcorn State game in the old Red River Classic. But what I'll never forget was what happened before the kickoff. One of the bands was playing the national anthem. Everything was still, everyone was at attention. And then it got to that last line. And the home of the... Before they could finish, the entire Alcorn crowd yelled, "Praise!" I had never seen anything like that before in my life. For the folks at Alcorn, it's tradition. And that moment stuck with me. And it's one of the many reasons why I wrote the book, HBCU Sports 101, a guide to understanding Black college athletics. It's not just about stats and scores. It's about the stories, the culture, and the people who shape the HBCU sports tradition. You can get your copy now at kenrashad.com, where you can purchase signed bundles, the ebook, and more. Or if you prefer, it's also available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other places where books are sold. Just click the link in the description below, whether you're watching or listening. But if you love the culture, this book is for you. Now back to the video.
I pulled it off. Look, guys, hey, like I said, man, the book HBCU Sports 101, the reviews, and I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but I am somewhat pleased to hear some of the preliminary reviews that have kind of either been published or people have been texting me since the book was released. HBCU Sports 101, I think is a keeper, and by all means, go out, kenrashad.com, buy the book. Now, look, I call myself, if y'all only knew the weekend that I had, the last couple of days, you probably saw some videos, man. I ain't trying to do this, okay? And the writer's cramp. Look, man, that was no joke. And I literally signed all those books, and I went and I stuffed them in the envelopes, and I took them to the post office. Man, that was that was something. And I ain't trying to do that no more. And so I'm gonna just full disclose. I'm gonna keep it transparent with you. So if you go to kenrashad.com right now, because I'm like, look, I am not signing any more of these books. And if you want a signed book, you have to make it worth my while to do it. So you can get you a regular copy at Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Walmart.com, stuff like that. Get the regular copy. But if you want me to sign it, you get the premium book. Now there's a special, a lot heavier. The pages are thicker. Collector's item. I'll sign that. It's a little more expensive. I'm like, ain't nobody gonna buy this. Excuse the expression, but them shit sold out. So I got more books to sign. And I told him, I said, okay, when the books come, I'll sign them and I'll ship them out to you. I ain't trying to do this, but I thank you anyway. I am so blessed. Thank you so much. So anyway, all right. Now, on to our off topic. And this was the, anyway, Black to School. And we kind of had a discussion on what are we going to talk about as our off topic? and this is going to be a little friendly. And then Chris started thinking, he said, you know what, how about we all recall the first day we set foot on our college, our college campuses as a freshman, Chris, I'm guessing, that first day. And I started thinking about that, and I was like, okay, that's an interesting concept. So, Chris, this was your baby, and school is about to be in session probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And I guess for those who are in camp right now, classes hadn't started yet, but they're on campuses. Talk about your experience, man. First day you step foot on Delaware State's campus as a freshman.
Well, first and foremost, I didn't have a room. I caught the bus from my hometown of Wilmington, Delaware to Dover, Delaware. If you guys are not familiar, that's about a 45, 50-minute ride every day for the fall semester of 2001. And I didn't care. I just wanted to be a student at Delaware State University. Like I literally said, all right, I will eat this meatball until I can get a room on campus. And luckily I was able to get a room on campus in the spring of 2002. But just walking around campus that first day, going to class, going to the bookstore, going to the old Martin Luther King Student Center, which has since been knocked down and replaced by a beautiful new Martin Luther King Student Center. It was just something that I never saw, coming, that the feelings would overwhelm me the way they did that day when I was 19 years old. Because I'll be honest with y'all, my top 5 colleges, Delaware State wasn't nowhere in the mix. They were all HBCUs, but they were not Delaware State. My top 5 in order: I wanted to go to Hampton, then Clark, then A&T, then Central, and Howard. Those are my big 5. Those were the 5 that I was obsessed with when my mom started drilling the knowledge of HBCUs into my head as a young kid.
Give me the schools again. You said it was what? It was
the top
Hampton?
5 was Hampton, Clark, Atlanta, North Carolina A&T, North Carolina Central, and Howard.
Okay.
Those were the 5 I wanted to go to, and I missed the mark on all of them. Like I failed geometry my senior year of high school, had to go to summer school to get my diploma. I lingered around for about a year or two, just not knowing what I wanted to do. And then, I just went ahead, enrolled at Delaware State. There's more to that story that I'll share with you guys another time. But just walking on campus that first day, seeing different people, meeting folks, getting to know my professors. And it was just like, this is actually a dream, man. This was actually a dream come true. And it even, when I finally was able to stay on campus and I have to catch a bus every doggone day to go back home, it just intensified. Like, I loved my campus years. I didn't have the traditional hallmark HBCU experience that everybody has, with respect to different social things. But as far as just being a student at an HBCU, I couldn't have asked for anything more. And that first day was just like, wow, I'm here. Now let me see if I can stay here. And I was able to stick it through and get my degree, man. And it's one of the proudest periods of my life. So I thought about, when Ken asked what we were going to talk about, I was like, man, these kids are going back to school, and I'm starting to think about how my first days went, how, just walking around campus, meeting new people and everything just felt like a breath of fresh air for me, from coming from a single parent home. I was raised by my mother, didn't have much relationship with my father. So my mom did the very best she could. And I think she did pretty well, because here I am talking to you guys. And, it just was like, all right, I've made it. I feel like I've accomplished something. And that feeling just has never left me almost 24 years later.
Jared, I know you're not that long removed from Bowie State, but I'm guessing you felt some kind of way your freshman year, right? When you first stepped foot on campus.
Yeah, when I stepped on campus in fall of 1985, I think but I was destined to go to an HBCU. Like, my family, if you know anything about my family, we are draped in HBCUs. I'm not going to go down my whole family tree, but I'll just go with my immediates. My mother went to Hampton, father went to Florida A&M, and my sister went to Morgan. And of course, I went to Bowie, so backtracking, getting a little personal, but not too deep. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but in high school, I didn't think that college was destined for me, because I wasn't a great student in my first 2 years of high school. I wasn't really focused. My focus was everywhere but school in my first 2 years of high school. But then I kind of got it together my junior year. I had my best semester in high school. And I started seeing college as an option for me because my GPA grew immensely in my junior year. And so senior year comes around and it's time to start applying for colleges. I got into Bowie first. I got into Virginia Union first. Virginia Union was the first school that I didn't even apply to Virginia Union, really, technically. So how it happened was I went to a Black College Expo. And at a Black College Expo, they had a form that you filled out for admissions. So I submitted the form and didn't even leave the Black College Expo. They told me I was accepted in the Virginia Union.
Wow.
So just the randomest way I could have ever gotten into a college, I got into Virginia Union the easiest way I've ever. Now that I'm thinking about it, man, I'm so old. I'm misremembering what school it was. I don't know so let me just say I got into Bowie, I got into Virginia State, I got into Virginia Union, and I got into one more school. It was either Coppin or UMES. One of those two. Coppin was out because that was in the boondocks. Not really, but I didn't want to go to Baltimore. Virginia Union and Virginia State.
Wait a minute. You didn't want to go where? You didn't want to go where? Say it again.
I didn't want to go out in the boondocks.
No, that ain't what you said.
I didn't want to go out the country.
That ain't what you said.
That is what I said.
You said you want to go to where? How do you say that city name?
Oh, Baltimore.
Go ahead, man. I'm just saying. Go ahead.
Anyway, my parents was not about to pay for in and out of state tuition for Virginia State and Virginia Union, because my first option was whichever school it was that I got into first, whether it was Virginia Union or Virginia State, because that was the first school to accept me. Remember, I said before I got into college, I didn't think I was going to be, college was my area because I didn't think I was a good student until my junior year. So when I got into the first college that I got into, I was like, that's the school I want to go to. But then they was like, and we ain't paying out of state tuition. All right, and I'm going to Bowie. And so I got into Bowie. The first time I got onto Bowie was actually in the summer. Bowie had a program called Bulldog Academy. So when I got in there in 1985, let me stop. So Bulldog Academy was a 2-month summer program where you take an English and a math class. So they have you take a test to either give you the it's either Math 100 or Math 101 or English 100 or English 101. English 100 is for the people who failed the test, so that instead of starting with English 100 in your first fall semester, you can get it out the way in the summer, so that when you can be one step ahead in the fall and not actually have to be behind, because Math 100 and English 100 aren't technically graduate requirement courses. So they have you take, so the Bulldog Academy was a way for, if you had to take one of those classes in the summer, you don't have to take a non-graduate requirement course in your first full semester. So of course I didn't do great in math. I had to take Math 100, but English I was always great at because I was always doing writing and stuff. Anyway, with all those boring details aside, the first moment that I realized that I wanted to be, that I was where I needed to be, was the first time we had an on-campus party was during Bulldog Academy, and they played go-go for the first time, and I saw a room full of people beating their feet. And for those who don't know, beating your feet is a dance that you do to go-go. And but when they played, I'm not even gonna say the name. I'm just going 3 in the morning, the pancake house. 4 in the morning, in my house, and the whole room was lit. So that was the moment that I knew that I was where I needed to be, because knowing me, I would not have been able to go somewhere where I play go-go and they'd be like, what is this? I'd have I'd have been free to fight somebody, Steve. But I'm like, they don't know what go-go is. So, yeah, Bowie was the place that I needed to be. And you hear a lot of HBCU grads say it, but it's the best decision I ever made. I would not have been able. There's no other. No disrespect to any other PWIs, but an HBCU was where I needed to be.
See, Jared got me all hyped up, boy. As soon as he said 3 in the morning, man.
So
listen, we had a huge, before I let Ken go, we had a huge DMV contingent at Delaware State. So we had go. In fact, Big G in the Backyard Band opened up homecoming for us in 2001. So that was my first taste of a live go-go, and I was hooked from that point on. But yeah, I'll leave it with that.
Bowie was a melting pot. We had everybody. We had BC, we had PG, PG County, Prince George's County, for those who don't know. That's where I'm from. We had Baltimore, we had people from Delaware. We had somebody from Delaware, we had people from Michigan, we had people from everywhere. We had people from New Jersey, we had people from New York. So all the different people for all the different cultures, like that's one thing that that is not talked about enough with HBCUs, is that you're going to get a lot of different, and it's college in general, but you get everybody from all these different cultures coming together, and you learn so much about so many different cultures. I learned about Igbo in college, like, the Igbo language, of course, for those who don't know. Like, I learned French in college. Never heard, I heard French, but like I actually learned the French language for the first time in college, like from a student, by the way, not a teacher, from a student. Like, so I think that's one thing that people need to know, is that college in general, but HBCUs, for what my experience was, is a melting pot of cultures, and you learn so much from just being around and experiencing new things, learning from different people. And again, I'll just reiterate, best decision I ever made.
Man, let me tell y'all something. And I shouldn't be embarrassed to say this, and I'm not, and I'm just, but I can tell you now, as a high school senior, matter of fact, as a high schooler, period, I wasn't a very good student. Because at that time, I'm growing up in Inglewood, California, just outside of South Central LA. And I kind of, I came up in the late 80s I don't want to say it was the heyday, but I came up at a time when Blood and Crip life was at an all-time high, and all of the shenanigans that came along with it, and so I came up along the times of, NWA and all those cats. And I saw that stuff firsthand. So I can't sit up here and tell you, and my brother, same here like Chris, single mother, father was, he was my father. That was about it. But, but single mother, did the best she could. But, for me, it was about them girls, about them damn girls. And because I wasn't the great student that I was. Now, some of you guys like Edwin, who's known me for a while, we've got the HBCUs and my hometown affiliation of, LA and so forth. So by default, I was kind of like partial to UCLA. I'm a big UCLA fan, just, and so I got like a lot of students, high schoolers who either went to Inglewood or Morningside High School. They went to high school and so forth. They went to UCLA and all that other stuff. And so I remember, like, I want to go to UCLA. And I remember my counselor was like, boy, you lost your mind. You know damn well you can't go to UCLA. All right. And so I'm thinking to myself, well, I want to be a communications major. I want to go, I want to be a journalism and stuff like that. So I'm like, well, maybe we'll go to, and I'll never forget this. This was one of the counselors at Inglewood High School, which is where I went to school. And she was like, boy, your grades are just, and you up here trying to go to one of these. She goes, if I were you, I'll never forget this. She says, if I were you, you probably want to consider going to one of the black schools. And I'm like, what do I want to go to the black schools for? All of my folks go to Grambling. I don't want to go to them black schools. I really didn't. I want to go to someplace else. And as it turned out, best that you can probably end up doing is probably going to one of the black schools. So I'm thinking, okay. So I'm looking at Howard and some of these other schools, and I'll never forget, man. I swear to you guys, man, I call myself trying to apply to Howard, and that whoever it was that sent me that letter from Howard, guys, I'm telling you, I'm not making this up. Howard sent me a letter, and I'm paraphrasing here. They was like, how dare you have the audacity to apply to Howard? It was like that. You know damn well you ain't got no business applying to this school. Hell no, you can't come. I am not.
You're not lying. I got that same letter.
I'm not making this up. It was Howard. Howard was like, how you know damn well you ain't got no business wasting your application fee trying to come to the school. No, you ain't coming to the school. And so by this time, I'm like, well, damn, I got to go to school someplace. And so I applied. And follow me here. Now, of course, I ended up going to Grambling. Let me tell you guys just how bad of a student I was. I'm just keep it real with you. Grambling's requirement at the time when I was coming out of high school, Louisiana. This is Grambling. You have to graduate. If you're an in-state student, you have to graduate from an accredited high school. If you're in-state, this was what the admissions requirements were at Grambling. You need to graduate from an accredited high school, period. However, if you are an out-of-state student, you need to graduate from an accredited high school with a 2.0 GPA. Listen to me now. I'm in California. I graduated from an accredited high school, but I had to graduate with a 2.0. Guess what? That's just how bad I was doing. I didn't have a 2.0 graduating from high school. Yes. So I applied, sent my application to Grambling, and believe it or not, Grambling said, Grambling turned me down. And I applied. I applied to Howard, I applied to Grambling, I applied to Southern. Southern accepted me. Yes. I don't know if you guys knew this. Southern accepted me. I told my mom, guess what? Mom, look, got my letter. Southern accepted me. She was like, I don't know what you showing me that for. You ain't going to Southern. I'm like, hold up. You ain't going to Southern. Now, keeping my mom with the Grambling, my grandparents worked on Grambling's campus. My mom is from Grambling. You ain't going to. I'm like, I know you ain't just calling yourself trying to. I know you're not going to just turn down an opportunity for me to go to college just because this is Southern. All I'm telling you is that you ain't going to Southern. You better find some way to get your butt in Grambling. Long story short, I swear to you, I'm not making this up, man. I took a bus. This is during summer. And I had to literally make a personal appeal to the registrar's office. I'll never forget her name. Her name is Irene Thomas. She's the registrar's office. And she looked at my transcript and she was just like, Lord Jesus. She was like, I'm gonna give you a chance. And she gave me a chance and they accepted me. How many incoming freshmen do you know entering to school come in on a probationary status? I was accepted on a probationary status. Most students get it. Look, most freshmen or most students, you come in freshman year, you do whatever, and then maybe at the end of that first semester, you may be on probationary status, and you got another semester to make it up. Otherwise, if you don't get out, they kick you out. Bruh, I got accepted on a probationary status, and they said, you got one semester. And if your ass don't get it right by the end of the semester, we sending your buck back to Inglewood, and you got to deal with them Bloods and them Crips. Guess what? I graduated.
Hey.
But I will say this much. I will say this much, because I was all about them girls. Now, we had this thing when I was in school, there was because of how things were with kind of like with school at the time. So like school in California in that state, school ran from like September and ended in June, whereas schools kind of like down in the South and so forth started in August and ended in May. So by the time the school year was over in May, everybody, would leave for the summer. We had this thing to where people who went to school in Inglewood at the end of the towards the end of the school year, they would invite students, some of the previous graduates, to come and talk, kind of meet with and with some of the seniors. And so here I am. School is already in. I'm back in LA, and school's still in LA. And they was like, "Ken, hey man, you in Grambling? What's up?" I said, and keep in mind, I was all about them girls, all right? And my homies down there, and he was like, "Ken, what's up with Graham?" I said, let me tell y'all, man, here in Inglewood, we got girls. But at Grambling, they got women. Are you serious? I said, bro, they got some women down there in Grambling. So I don't know what y'all got out of all of that. All I don't know is, and like Chris and Jared said, my HBCU experience, my mother made probably the best decision she ever made. She was like, "You are not taking your ass to Southern." No disrespect to the folks at Southern. I'm just simply saying. But she knew what she was doing. She never really did say, she never really told me that I'm not sending you to Southern because you ain't going to Southern. I don't know what that was about, but all I'm saying is that because of how Grambling was, and look, it's rural. It's out in the middle of nowhere. But for whatever reason, and I think a lot of this probably applies to the people down in Southern, man, there were a lot of people who came from out of state. Matter of fact, Grambling had more, if I'm not mistaken, at the time, Grambling had a student enrollment that consisted of people, enrollment of folks out of the state as opposed to those in state. If not, it was almost 50-50. There were a lot of students from out of Grambling, out of state, and they weren't like from the neighboring states. There were a ton of us from LA. There were a ton of us from Detroit, a ton of us from DC, a ton of us from Miami in particular. And so when you put in consideration all of those people from various parts, and I quickly realized being, and had been living back and forth to Grambling, so I knew all there was about Grambling in and of itself. But one of the unique things about my experience at an HBCU, because of where it was located and where everybody was from, you began to realize, granted, these are my black folks, but you know what? All black folks aren't the same, and the culture, depending on where they're from, isn't necessarily the same either. And so when you guys talk about, you guys talk about the music in DC, I mean, dude, I knew about house music because of the folks from Detroit, and we won't talk about Luke and them cats from Miami, I'm just saying, Miami, through that. Anyway, I'm just saying, dude, I mean, it was all there. And so when we had parties and the DJ was playing music from all parts of the country, man, I mean, house, go-go, bounce in New Orleans. I mean, it was all there. It was all there. And so that is what makes the HBCU experience so unique. So, Chris, we probably went overtime, but I'm glad we talked about this, man. But I'm just simply saying, man, girls. Have mercy. Yes, indeed. Anyway, oh yeah, I know that's right. Hey, my man, what? Doo-doo round. Y'all remember that? Doo-doo round.
Don't stop.
Doo-doo
Yeah.
round.
They played that song up in Philly all the time. I remember.
Anyway, man, look, hey guys, I appreciate you guys taking a moment to hear us talk. And look, if you haven't had a chance, you know what? I'm sorry, Chris. I'm taking your job. Do your job, man. You do that thing. You do it better than anybody. Go ahead.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we thank y'all for checking us out on your Friday afternoon on the Roundtable. We greatly appreciate y'all. Be sure to subscribe to this channel, become a level 1 or level 2 member. Send us a super chat for $4.99 a month. You can get all the HBCU sports news that's fit to broadcast and print as we like to give it to you, and it keeps a roof over our heads and our bills paid. Don't forget to follow us on all manners of social media. We're on the Musty app. We're on TikTok. We're on Threads. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're even on Blue Sky. Just search for HBCU Sports. If you would like to donate, you can use the Zelle app. Go to the Zelle app, type in donate at hbcusports.com, drop the coins there, or you go straight to the website, hbcusports.com/donate. Give us your coins there. Don't forget to buy Ken Rashad's book, HBCU Sports 101, a guide to understanding Black college athletics. He may not want to sign them, but if you pay him, he'll sign them for you. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter. You can get all the podcasts and all the news stories that we write right to your inbox. So there are plenty of ways to support us, plenty of ways to keep this party rolling as we get ready for football season, and it's only going to get better from here. So thank y'all for tuning in for the Roundtable. For Jared Hoffman and Ken Rashad, I am Chris Stevens. Thank y'all for watching. Till the next time we talk, y'all take care of yourselves and each other. We gone.
God bless y'all, man. See y'all next time.